Today I am giving you guys my first impressions on the 10th line. It was developed and published by Sungazer Software. It's their first commercial project, and if you want to recommend changes yourself and suggestions, the developer is actually quite active on Steam, so you can find him over there and he'll answer feedback and stuff like that. He's pretty active. Now, the first things first, let's just get the graphics out of the way because that's the least important part of this game. If you want AAA graphics, you're not going to play this game. It's pretty much a pixel art style. Sometimes you think you're playing a SNES game until you see the environments, which are really beautiful. If you look at the characters themselves, it looks like they came out of the SNES. The most important thing, let's get into gameplay. Pretty much how the game works is you have two sections. You have the platforming, and then you have the actual combat. Now, the platforming, it's actually unique in the way that you have three different characters. You platform separately, and you control them separately and switch between them. And each one has different abilities that they can use on the map that can get you treasure. So that's always good. And they actually have different attack animations too. You want to use one in certain scenarios and the other in another. So it's actually pretty unique in that sense. There's little puzzles here. I don't want to call them puzzles. They're not really challenging, but there's little brain teasers, I'd say, here and there in the game. Once we get into the combat, which is by hitting the enemy, hitting from the back, it's a surprise attack. They hit you from the back, you're ambushed, right? So once you actually enter the game, it's turn-based, and it's a card-like system. You basically have all these cards you can select from that do a certain action, but you need SP for it. If you don't have any SP, you can't do a regular attack. You just have to rest. Once you select your actions and target your enemies, it doesn't end there. You don't just sit back and wait for things to happen. You actually take part. It took me a while to learn this, but the system, let's just get this out of the way. The system has a huge learning curve, but what I figured out is you want to launch the enemies and hit them then, because that'll give you critical hits, and you want to look out for the enemy's weak points. So if you're using Rick's quivers, you can use a certain element, or if you're using Fox's breath, you can use a certain element. Also, a very key element to the battle system is the block system. You don't just have like a defend button. Beyond that, you actually have what's called special defenses, which depending on the character does different things. For the main character, the princess, it actually heals the party every time she gets hit with a melee attack. For Tox, every time he gets hit with a magic attack, he gets SP. And for Rick, every single time he's hit with a projectile that is not magic, he gets SP. If you time this right and know the enemies and what types they are, you turn the tides of battle really fast, which is another thing. This game's difficulty is challenging, which I find refreshing. A lot of games just strive for being easy, so I will say you definitely will get a challenge by playing this game on hard. That's one really good thing about this game, is that it punishes you for not playing on the hardest difficulty, which I think is something a lot more games should be doing. You don't deserve the same thing as someone that played on the hardest difficulty. You don't get New Game Plus and something else if you don't complete it on the hardest difficulty. So that just kind of gives them a reward. Characters in this game. The characters in this game are very deep, actually, and they actually grow. Now, I haven't beat the game yet, but from what I can tell, the story so far has been really good, and the character development has been really good. So definitely I can mark that off for this game. So gameplay and story-wise, it's actually really good. The only problem you might have with gameplay is that it has a huge learning curve, but once you get over that, it is super fun and rewarding. To affect the gameplay, actually, you have what's called training, not to be confused with leveling, which is where you can equip different items to your character or eat them. Depending on the character, you get stat boosts for certain things, which is how you improve your attacks and that sort. But they also have something called the power flow, which increases your general attributes. I want to talk about the content in this game. I'm about 20 hours in. I think I've only got a trophy for beating the first chapter or two, and I think there's 5 chapters. So you're definitely going to get a whole lot for your money, especially since a lot of triple A's don't have nearly as many hours of gameplay. And what people confuse is that they think more hours equals better game, which is actually how you handle implementing those hours. Certain games don't need to be super long, but I think this game implements that content in a way that makes it refreshing and addictive. So that's definitely not a problem. You're not going to find yourself overwhelmed. To get the platinum, all you have to do is collect everything and beat the game. I think I paid $10 for this, or 11 maybe. It was on sale. Yeah, this is actually a really good game. I wouldn't say it's the best game ever made, but it definitely combines platforming with RPGs in a way that makes sense. If there's anything you guys want to suggest for the developer, just go ahead and hit them up on Steam. I'm sure they'll respond, because I've seen where they respond quite often. And yeah, know that you might have to look a few things up for this game, especially if you just starting out to get over that learning curve. But other than that, this is a fantastic game. I wouldn't rate it anything yet. It's not a review, but I will say definitely, if you haven't, go buy the game, go check it out. It's definitely worth it.